Hi, just wanted to do a quick review for The Revenant, the novel, not the movie. Um, to start off, I thought it was a terrific book, much different from the movie in a few key ways, but very similar as well. Basically, it starts off pretty much exactly the same way. Some of the characters are slightly different, but most of that comes across in what you learn about them through their background experiences. Jim Bridger in the film, pretty much spot on to how he is in the book, um, despite some of the changes, and those are pretty much the only things that change his character. Hugh Glass is, Leonardo DiCaprio plays a good Hugh Glass in the film, I'll admit. But right now I'm talking about the novel. Things I liked were it was a good survival story for sure, kind of man against nature and man versus man as well. Um, at one point, a scene which wasn't included, just to give a little snippet from the novel, don't want to give too much away, but there is one scene where he actually fights off a pack of wolves to get at a fallen buffalo carcass that the wolves have taken down, and he fights them off basically just with fire. It's an intense scene, especially for a novel, and it would have been cool to see on screen, but I suppose they had their hands full with the whole grizzly bear attack scene, which everybody is talking about, which is just as brutal. And I have to say, they did do a good job in the movie of representing what happens in the book. I mean, of course, it's not fact. The author was going off of just accounts and historical accounts, nothing in stone. Um, but to the key changes, and I won't say much for people who have seen the movie or haven't seen the movie, and people who haven't read the novel. Is in the film, Hugh Glass has a son, but in the novel he doesn't. In the novel, it does describe his relationship with the Pawnee tribe, and he stayed with them for a year in the novel after being a pirate, believe it or not, in his younger years. He started out as a voyager, as a seaman on the ocean. He was a captain of a shipping vessel, and he got hijacked and forced to be a pirate. Essentially, he could live or die, so he chose being a pirate, which was a good choice. He ended up in a long story short, he ended up escaping, and before he escaped, he managed to in the riots and looting of a town being attacked is how he managed his escape, and he ends up he ends up coming across a crate of brand new rifles, and they're Anstats, um, a high quality made rifle for the time, and very sought after, expensive. So he does take that rifle, and he's still carrying that rifle when the story picks up um, along the river at the beginning of the novel. And the Fitzgerald characters, right off the bat, he's jealous, as are all the men, but he especially, and he's a nefarious character, a scumbag, and he's jealous of that rifle. So after the bear attack, um, they take Hugh Glass as far as they can, and it's it it's eventual that they, you know, they really can't do much with them. They have to leave him behind. Um, so Fitzgerald, of course, volunteers, and second volunteer is Jim Bridger. So after 2 nights, I believe. Fitzgerald concocts a plan to leave Hugh Glass, abandon Hugh Glass, and before they abandon him, they steal all his supplies. Now that is the key change from the film and the movie. I won't mention what happens in the movie, but they leave him there and they steal his supplies. He's still breathing when they leave him, but he's basically, he's looking around. But he has no motor functions. No, he wakes up maybe a half a day later, maybe less. I can't remember for sure, and that's where the story begins. So there's also a key difference at the end, which I won't give away as well. But basically, the biggest change they made from the novel to the film is changing Hugh Glass's motivation for, you know, catching up with Fitzgerald and exacting his revenge. His motivation was completely different in the film. Not completely different, but in the novel, the loss of his Anstad, his rifle, his only means of protection as a survivalist and a guide and a huntsman, and his knife for skinning and his fire supplies, flint. They took his basically his survival kit for that type of time and that type of weather, and so that's what drives his anger towards revenge. Jim Bridger, even when he sets out, he wants to kill both those guys, but later on he comes to realize that it was Fitzgerald that pushed Bridger, a 19-year-old, into it. And you do learn some cool backstory stuff about Fitzgerald's character. He's basically just a brawler, just a bad dude, basically. And Hugh Glass is past a little bit as well. Those sections in the novel do tend to slow down the action a bit, but they are interesting. But I would have preferred almost to not include that stuff. I mean, or at least have it in shorter spans, because they go from tense, frantic action where you want to see what happens, and then they'll jump back in time to when Hugh Glass was younger and meander on for 20 or 30 pages, which can get a little bit, it's like going for a sprint and then stopping to walk for a few kilometers. So all in all, excellent novel. It's first one I've read in that quickly. I read it in 3 or 4 days. First one I've read that quickly in months, so I'll give it a solid thumbs up for sure. And if you haven't seen the movie, go see the movie. That's a good movie. Alright, thanks. Take care now.